After a short break, I am back with another installment in the Barony class guide series. Today we're covering the Wanderer, a very unique class built for survival rather than combat. It's another kind of support or utility class that maybe works slightly better in multiplayer, but by no means does this make it a bad single player choice. The Wanderer's starting equipment is a little excessive, at least for the base game classes, but it's probably because it isn't spec'd for combat. The Hood of Whispers gives you some extra ranged backstab damage and 10 more stealth, a cloak that has no special effect and can be thrown out, leather boots, blessed ones for 1 more AC, and a ring of warning to let you see nearby enemies on the map are all the armor pieces you get. You'll start with 2 weapons, a quarterstaff and a slingshot. The rest of the items are all utility or survival based. A single cure ailment potion, 2 tin cans plus a tin opener, 1 fish, 1 towel, a lantern, a spellbook of detect food, and 6 scrolls of magic mapping. The starting skills for the Wanderer are very straightforward in comparison to the large pool of starting items. A whopping 50 in swimming, for, all the time you'll spend in the water, 25 trading, 30 alchemy, 25 stealth, plus the 10 from your Hood of Whispers, so 35, 25 ranged, 10 unarmed, and 25 polearms. Very minimal combat experience, but a decent amount of starting alchemy and trading to help you acquire even more tools to help keep yourself alive. The Wanderer is an interesting class in the way that it's the first in this series to be entirely spec'd for survival. I haven't mentioned it in this series yet, but I usually play Barony with hunger off. This doesn't really factor into how most of the classes function, but it does for the Wanderer. I'll mention it for any future classes that may play better or be designed with the hunger mechanic in mind. Anyway, this class may seem very difficult or strange to play, but trust me, with a little bit of elbow grease, this isn't any harder than playing a warrior. You're going to start off by sneaking around any difficult fights, only take the easy ones. Your warning ring will let you know if an enemy is right around the corner, so you can plan a route through any level that avoids most of the danger. You can ping away at an enemy's health with your slingshot, then finish them off with your quarterstaff. But you should immediately try to replace that slingshot. Those things are just fucking ass. For the first few levels, until you get some AC, you should approach fights in a stealthy manner. Then, once you get that AC, and maybe a shield, you can just take everything head on from that point. Because you can't just fight anything head on, and you still have all those levels in ranged, you can choose to focus on one or the other. Would you like to fight everything with melee, or shoot everything from a distance, or perhaps a mix of both? The choice is yours. I personally prefer playing it as a ranged class that does melee combat as a secondary option. In single player, you'll be a completely self-sufficient individual, with your power growing exponentially over time, and you'll have the tools to easily find and eat most food. In multiplayer, you are still very self-sufficient, but you can help your team out by passing around your tin opener, using the detect food book to find some food for your starving goblin friend, cure your goblin friend of their poison affliction with your cure ailment potion, and to warn your team of any nearby enemies. The Wanderer is one of the 2 classes that I would consider being support-oriented classes, which I didn't really think about it until now, but it's kind of weird how Barony only has 2 support classes, considering how much co-op is factored into the design. There are other classes that have support items, but the Healer and Wanderer are entirely spec'd to help others along with themselves. When it comes to weapons, the Wanderer is pretty easy to arm. If you can acquire it, Gungnir is your best melee choice, as you start with skill and polearms, but your starting polearm skill is low enough that if you decide you want to use a different weapon type, it won't take very long to build up skill with a different melee weapon. Kirsalakatos works very well with your ranged skill, but it's not necessarily the best ranged option. As I went over in the Rogue Guide, ranged gameplay in Barony comes down more to what you as the player want. You can do a crossbow with any special ammo you find, Kirsalakatos and a bicocket, whatever throwing weapons you happen upon, ideally shurikens, but you take what you can get. If you do the no mines and have some extra staffs, do the early underworld. Otherwise, I would go with the crossbow. But like I said, really anything works. Armor is also pretty easy. You really just gotta keep it light. Most of my playthrough, I didn't wear a chest piece, just so I could stay lighter and move faster. As long as that chest slot is empty, you can wear pretty much anything else for most of the game. Then when you're strong enough that the weight doesn't matter, feel free to fill it if you so desire. Other miscellaneous items include skeleton keys in the event that you don't level your magic, the usual magic reflect cloaks and amulets, and alembics so you can fully utilize your starting alchemy skill. Moving on to race synergies, the Wanderer has some very interesting ones. The most infamous would be Vampire, as this is probably the most popular race and class combo for speedrunning the game, other than Vampire Ninja. It gives you Levitate to easily access secret level portals, or just skip over lava or pits, and it gives you one of the best offensive spells in the game, on top of the 6 magic mapping scrolls that the class starts with. So finding the exit in those later levels can be done instantly, saving a lot of time. Other than that, I think Wanderer works very well with Insectoid, because your energy meter acts as a visual indicator of how much time you have left until you're hungry, and a big part of the Wanderer's playstyle is finding food. So this pairs well with the Insectoid's requirements of food to cast spells. Because you start with a tin opener, and Insectoids can eat any food of any quality level, and are immune to vomiting, other than when drunk, you can eat literally any food you pick up. Because of Wanderer's gravitation towards food collection, it may not pair so well with Automaton, at least to eat other non-food items to keep the boiler running. Not a terrible combination, but not ideal either. Goblin functions as its usual self, improving your ability to improvise with weapons, and making your gear more durable. The same can be said for Incubus, Succubus, and Skeleton, with none of them really bringing too much to the table, though Incubus does have Arcane Mark, which can help for any enemies that resist ranged damage. The last one to mention is Goatman, which is just universally good for any class that isn't very magic heavy, so it works very well here. It removes the need for your starting tin opener, removes the risk of greasy hands from eating a tin, and can net you more potions from fountains. On top of all that, you get buffed from being drunk. Very good combo. In short, scour the map for all available food, feed your friends and family, kill the twins in a matter of minutes. That's it for the Wanderer Guide. If you enjoyed, do nothing. Learn inner peace.